through storms, unshaken, unbowed. From trials and verdicts, still standing proud. A titan in the tempest, against the raging crowd. He's got a vision for the future, gonna shout it loud. Changing the wind, it's coming fast. A new foundation built to last. Cryptocurrency's the key, make the big switch. Power to the people, time to teach the rich. Legal battles can't hold him, he's moving on. With plans so bold, from dusk till dawn, he's rewriting the...
Welcome everyone to the Crazy Cryptonaut channel. I am Zester, and thank you guys so much for joining me on this fun Monday morning. I always forget about that one though. With the time change, I know it's still morning for everyone on the East Coast, Central Standard, Pacific Standard, but actually for me, it's technically good afternoon over here in AST, and it throws me off every single time I go to say that, but it's morning for most everyone out there, and so a very, very, very good morning to you all. What's up, Mile High Trish? Good morning, Kukla. Hope y'all ladies had an amazing weekend. Good morning, Grandma Sally. Good morning, Crazy Chester. An important one. And I'm glad I tried Kukla a few times to miss this one. I've been trying hard, actually, the past few streams to miss it. Please do remember that the content in this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes, not intended to provide financial advice. Please consult with a financial professional before making investment decisions. A very, very important one for the alphabet corporate gods out there. But yes, how are you all doing? How did everyone handle the crypto weekend? We did not see really any major recovery over the weekend, although we did not see any lower prices, which I am actually fairly surprised about. I really did expect that we were going to have at least one other bounce down below 82,000, at least in terms of on Bitcoin, and we didn't. I think that we are now going to definitely be looking to the news of this week is going to be making the determination of whether crypto and the crypto market is going to take another leg down or whether it's going to start to stabilize right around here and try to start clawing back above 90,000. It's going to be highly based off the news of the week. I really thought we were already going to have seen 75,000 on Saturday. I was actually sitting there ready with my stable coins, Ledger logged in and everything. I was sitting there waiting on Saturday morning, expecting to get my sale price, and well, it never happened. It never happened, and so that's a good thing though. Overall, there's a lot more strength in the market than I was expecting, and a lot of other analysts. I really thought there wasn't going to be a lot of buying pressure at the 84, 85,000. It seems to be holding steady as of right now, but that could change at any point in time. As a heads up to everyone, I am still sitting there prepared with my stable coin collection over to the side. I'm still planning on getting a deal in the coming days, but maybe I'm not going to get one. I'm still thinking that I might, but we will all figure that one out together. Let's see, though. Mile High Trish found a fun game that I enjoy playing that pays me in sats. Converted to ETH and staked pennies from heaven. Oh, that's awesome, Mile High Trish. I have one of those that I've been working with that I'm planning on covering on the show sometime soon. But I definitely will have to cover that one as well, Mile High Trish, and let everyone know, because there are some fun little games that you can play, and you're definitely not going to bankroll a buttload of cryptocurrency doing it, but you are getting paid, and that crypto can appreciate in value. And so those types of things are something we're going to talk about. And actually, for today's stream, I do have some news to go over. We're going to talk about the fact that not only is the crypto market in an extreme fear cycle, the stock market is in an extreme fear cycle. We are seeing the consequences of investor fear essentially in every major market right now. We're going to talk about that. But first things first, we're going to talk about the Gemini card program because I have some tips, tricks, and some things that I have learned over the past weekend, past couple of days when it comes to this Gemini program. Now, first things first, everybody who has a Gemini card, you need to go check your app because they made an update. There is now a page on the Gemini app inside of your Gemini wallet, whatever device you're running it on, whether it's the computer or your phone. They have made a separation or an update essentially to the Refer and Earn program. It still works the same way. Everything is identical in terms of how it works, but you now have the ability to actually go in and see who all is currently in the process. And so if you actually go, and I don't know if I want to show this page on my phone because I have the names of people who are currently in my referral program, people that have clicked on my link. And so I don't know if I necessarily want to show it, but I want everyone out there to go over to your Gemini app. If you are using this part of the Zero to Crypto Retirement, you need to go and check your Gemini app because they now have in the top side. And so if you go over and you're on home page, so you're on home page on the app, there's this new thing up at the top, rewards, right here. When you click on it, it will actually show you the people that are currently going, okay, I don't feel bad. It didn't include any last names. It will show active referrals now. This is an update. This is a change. It was not doing that, at least in my version in the past. Now it is. Now you can see where your referral rewards are. And so here is something I want to point out, and I'm having a hard time with the camera, but when they made this update, it reset your crypto reward settings. And so if you notice down here, I got rewards in Bitcoin. I didn't want rewards in Bitcoin. It did this automatically with this update. And so if you are a part of the program, you are using the Gemini card, you need to go in and update which crypto you want your rewards in. Because for some reason, when Gemini made this change up, it's not that they're not paying you the same amount. They're still paying you the rewards, but you need to go back through and choose which crypto you are receiving your rewards in. I went back, I switched it back up, and you'll see now that the most recent reward came in the form of XRP. So all you do is click the button and it goes back to normal. I didn't know it had happened, and so I got Bitcoin as my reward crypto. I'm not unhappy. I'm happy to have the Bitcoin, but it wasn't what I asked for. I asked for XRP. And so just as a heads up, I don't know if this is occurring to multiple people, if this was just a me problem. This could have just been a very much me thing, but it is something to check. You do now have this extra page, and you can now see on your rewards another page. This split everything up, though, because now, essentially, over in the card section, you also have rewards that were kind of being tallied before. This has kind of confused that, but the best way to look at it is actually to go back to the portfolio. I am currently at $723 in terms of my goal. I'm nowhere close to retiring, but I'm at 723 without buying anything. And this actually would be a lot higher if the market had not turned downwards during this entire endeavor. And so that's my little update on that one. And actually, that goes into another update that I have figured out about. With the program reward for it, where if you spend $3,000 before or in your first 90 days, which I achieved it. And so I managed to spend $3,000 on the card in my first 90 days, just paying bills, paying for Christmas presents, and everything of that nature. I managed to get to the $3,000. Something I learned about this, you do not immediately get the $200. You actually do not get the $200 until 8 weeks from the end of your current billing period when you achieve it. And so this is a heads up for everyone else that might be getting close. If you do end up getting it, it is going to take 2 months after you earned it to get your $200 of crypto that you earned. That's something that I just learned. I mean, that's fine. It's $200 of crypto then, or $200 of crypto now. It is what it is. But as a heads up for clarification, so folks know, I just learned how this one works myself personally, and you're not going to get that $200 anytime super soon. Essentially, that means for me, I'm not going to get it until I guess sometime towards the end of January. And so, okay, that actually, Brooks Pressure Washing. Howdy, Zester. I'm having a hard time getting my reward for spending $3,000. They don't load my payment and update the balance very quickly. They do not. And so, Neil, they also, I'm glad you asked this. This is very, very good timing. They do not. It takes at least until about a week after you have made a purchase for it to count towards the $3,000. Essentially, they're not giving you credit for that purchase until it's guaranteed you're not going to claim fraud or something of that nature. They're waiting it out before they give you the credit towards the $3,000. And so I have gone through, Neil, on mine because I was worried that it was not calculating it fast enough. I did the math. It all ended up working out correctly, but it was delayed. And so those are two updates on things that I had learned in regards to the program. I do have one final little tip / for clarification so people understand with how this card works. And so let me actually pull that one up and let me show you so that maybe it'll be a little bit easier to understand where I'm going at on this one. And so whenever you are looking at how the program works, it is, don't need that part. It is, okay, these percentages, 4% gas, 3% dining, 2% groceries, 1% all else. And so just as a matter of clarification for everyone, what this means is that it is a percentage in dollar value. If you spend $100, it is 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, etc. That means that when the value of the crypto you are receiving in terms of payment as your reward is calculated, it's going to be purchased at whatever the current market price of that crypto is. And so, as just something for people to understand, I made certain to go through and make purchases over this last weekend while I was being rewarded in XRP. There's a difference that occurred. If I spent $100 and say $100 on dining, well, I am going to then have $3 that is going to be spent buying XRP. And so if the price of XRP is $2.11, I'm going to get 1 XRP and some change. If the price of XRP was $1.50, I would have gotten 2 XRP. And so just as a heads up for folks about how it is calculated, it's calculated off the dollar value. You're technically getting rewarded more XRP the lower the price of XRP goes. Remember, in the crypto world, what is XRP worth? 1 XRP is worth 1 XRP. What is 1 Bitcoin worth? 1 Bitcoin. That dollar value in fiat can change on a regular basis, but the true value is 1-to-1. They are fungible. And so just as a heads up, if you make purchases with your card while the prices of cryptos are down, you're going to get more crypto as a reward than you would have if you made the purchase while the prices were higher. Very, very, very simple. But I had talked to some folks over the weekend, and they were talking about how, well, they don't get much Bitcoin. It's in decimals. And I said, well, you can change the crypto you're getting, or you can make certain to make your purchases with your card when the price of that crypto is down. Your dollars didn't lose value during that time, but you're going to get more XRP as a reward for having made that purchase when the price of XRP is down. Not going to make a huge difference in terms of how much you get rewarded with, but doesn't matter. All right, Carol Wilson. Help. I have not been able to set up my ledger. It went crazy on the 12 words out of order. Help, please. Carol, I'm confused. Your ledger setup should have been 24 words. And so I'm confused, Carol, on where to go on this one. I'm definitely here to help, though, Carol, for certain. If you could give me a little bit more information on what happened in terms of it freaking out, Carol, I will be happy to see what I can't figure out. But let's go ahead, and while we wait for more questions to come along, let's jump into some of the news of the day. That was my update in terms of Gemini, and we're going to just jump into what's going on in the market, see if we can, if anything, answer some questions for folks, maybe bring a little bit of peace and calm, and also see if we've got any good news going on. And so as of right now, Bitcoin is trending upward. We're sitting at 87,465, Ethereum back up at 2,867, and XRP back at $2.11. We had managed to get down during this entire little drop to $1.88 is what CoinGecko is showing as our low point during this most recent correction. $1.88 back up to $2.11. So the market is doing better. We've definitely not bounced back, with a vengeance, but the market is trending in a positive direction. This is going to be extremely, extremely, extremely weak, though. Right now, if the Fed came out and the Fed gave us bad news on interest rates, it would not be fun. The crypto market, Bitcoin's price is weak right now. Bad news coming out from the financial sector or even from law enforcement. It would definitely have a disproportionate effect if it were to occur right now. But let's go ahead and get into some of the stuff going on. Let's talk about the Trump family. And so this one is with the recent downturn in the crypto markets. Well, when you have a lot more money, this downturn looks a whole lot more impressive on the portfolio, on that Excel spreadsheet. So the Trump family takes a $1 billion hit as crypto crash linked to president's woes. On account of the price drop, the Trump-linked businesses, World Liberty Financial, Trump Social Media Group, et cetera, and the family's personal crypto holdings have taken a $1 billion hit. And well, this Nobel Prize winning economist is trying to make the argument that essentially Paul Krugman here says that the Trump trade is unraveling after the president went all in on digital currency. And he's very much tying the success of the cryptocurrency markets to the overall approval rating of the Trump family. Now, I think that is just more TDS out there. But what he is very accurate about is that, yes, on paper, the Trump family lost $1 billion. Now, whenever you see headlines like this, though, we had this conversation on Friday of last week. Remember, there's a difference between realized losses and unrealized losses. And so this $1 billion hit is not actually a $1 billion hit. It's on paper. On screens, the Trump family has lost $1 billion of value in regards to their overall cryptocurrency portfolios, but they have not sold. And so under the assumption that the market corrects itself, the Trump family hasn't lost anything. And so please do be cautious whenever you see headlines or things of this nature. Trump family takes $1 billion hit. That is very much a disingenuous title. It's pretty much flat out lying, because that's not actually what happened at all. Trump family didn't lose anything, but the Trump family crypto portfolio on paper has taken a $1 billion hit over this little market correction. I thought that this one was a good point to point out how the media and how the news twists stories of this nature, but also a great way of placing it into context for us. Because our portfolios might be down, but mine's definitely not down by $1 billion. Places it into context, the entire deal. And so, Carol, okay, my words set. I wrote them down, and when it went back to review, they were out of order, so I stopped. Carol Wilson, they're out of order on purpose. You're supposed to put them in order. That's how you prove that you wrote down your phrase. And so that is a part of the normal setup of a Ledger device. You went through, you wrote down those, and now it's asking you to verify the 24 words. And so it should be 24 words, Carol. Did you buy it from ledger.com itself? But if you bought your Ledger from ledger.com itself, and it's asking for you to unshuffle the words, it's on the device. Remember, though, Carol, never give your recovery phrase to anyone. That recovery phrase is only for your device. You're not going to ever give that to a Ledger representative. You don't ever give that or show it to anyone. Those 24 words are for Carol's eyes and Carol's eyes only. And so as long as you're doing that one, Carol, you're on the right path. You are headed in the right direction. And I strongly believe that all it's asking you to do right now is to essentially prove that you wrote down your 24 words. And so it gave you those 24 words again in the wrong order. It wants you to tell it the right order. It's your way of proving that you wrote down your words. I'll check, Carol Wilson, but I'm pretty darn certain that that's what's happening on that one. Pretty darn certain that's what's happening on that one. So I think you're perfectly fine, Carol. I will do a quick check on that just to see. And I'll give an update as soon as I am back and live on it, Carol, whether anything has changed in how that works. There are a lot of scammers targeting Ledger holders right now. And so it's definitely something to be very cautious about. But if you are only giving it to that Ledger device, you do not have a risk. The risk arrives when you write that or give it to someone else. If you're just putting it into your Ledger device and you're saying, okay, no, the order was snake, calm, bite, lethargic, whatever it was. If you're just putting it back in order on your device, you should be good to go. Shirley McClendon, H4I. Do you put spaces between the words? Shirley McClendon, when you're writing it down with Ledger, you're going to get a little book. You're not going to need to worry about spacing or things of that nature. You just need to make certain when you write down your 24 words that you write them down in the right order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way to 24. And that whenever you then need to put that in, if you ever need to recover your wallet, that you put them back in the correct order. But otherwise, Shirley, you should not need to worry about spaces or anything of that nature, especially with how Ledger has their set. Yes, Robbie Buck 9251. Well explained, says most people are uninformed of us. Will not lose or gain anything till you sell. Trump family still up billions on crypto. Exactly. Exactly. And thank you, Robbie. But it's an important one because people see that headline. And we have gotten into a world of clickbait style headlines. And they're coming out with a reason. They have worded this on purpose. It's not true. It's not true. But they worded it that way because it's sensationalism and it makes Trump look silly. Because, oh, the Trump family lost $1 billion. I didn't lose $1 billion. It's not factual. And it's very important to remember you do not lose or gain money until you sell. That is a universal truth. You did not make anything if you have not sold. You did not lose anything if you have not sold. Those are numbers on screens. That's it. They are temporary. They change. That's how markets work. And so, yeah, no, definitely, Robbie, it's an important one. And I think a lot of folks, myself included, have looked at numbers on screens and said, that's my money. It's not. It's not my money until I click sell. And it's not my loss until I click sell. But I know it's something I have done many, many times. So it's very normal. It's very, very normal to look at the numbers and already be thinking about what you're going to spend it on. But it's the same thing in both directions. You don't lose it until you sell it. You don't gain it until you sell it. Oh, what's up, Tammy? What's up, Tammy? How are you doing? Welcome, welcome. Good morning, Mary Jones. All right, let's get to our next articles. This one in particular, I think, is very, very, very interesting, and it's not getting enough attention. And this is where you're going to start seeing a lot of claims of market manipulation. And this screams market manipulation. All right. Grant Cardone and Bitcoin advocates urge a boycott of JPMorgan over strategies, MSCI removal warning, and Epstein ties. Now, strategy here is in reference to Michael Saylor's MicroStrategy. They are the largest holder of Bitcoin on the planet. They have like 640 some thousand Bitcoin in their corporate treasury. It's more than any country out there. It's an insane amount of billions of dollars. And so JPMorgan has started putting out different claims and actually taking away some of the different security features of MicroStrategies. And there is a belief by Grant Cardone and many Bitcoin advocates that JPMorgan is doing this on purpose, not because there's an issue at MicroStrategies, but because JPMorgan can use this to essentially short the MicroStrategy stock and probably benefit in a large way from being able to get cheaper Bitcoin. Because MicroStrategy has so much Bitcoin, the value of it as a company in many ways is somewhat tied to the value of Bitcoin. And so we are hearing from Grant Cardone and Bitcoin advocates calling for a boycott of JPMorgan. Members of the crypto community warn that JPMorgan could face a retail-driven pushback similar to the 2021 GameStop short squeeze. Now, Grant Cardone and Bitcoin advocates urge a boycott of JPMorgan after the bank warned of major outflows from strategy if removed from MSCI indices. And so JPMorgan faces criticisms for its financial ties to Epstein and the fact that it is believed that they are shorting MicroStrategy. And so they are coming out and saying a bunch of negative things about MicroStrategy while they have a major short position on the MicroStrategy stock. This is blatant market manipulation. JPMorgan is trying to profit from the value of MicroStrategy stock going down. They took a short position and now they are spreading bad news about MicroStrategies, trying to force their short to become profitable. And so there is now a major movement arising amongst Bitcoin advocates to say the only way we can handle this is we need to start shorting JPMorgan stock and we need to start boycotting JPMorgan services. This is a blatant case of market manipulation, and it's coming from some of the major financial institutions. And so prominent real estate investor Grant Cardone joined crypto community members calling for a boycott of JPMorgan after the banking giant warned that strategy could face up to $2.8 billion in outflows if it is removed from the MSCI indices. If additional index providers follow MSCI's lead, total withdrawals could reach $8.8 billion, according to JPMorgan analysts. Now, in the wake of JPMorgan estimates, strategy stock fell below $200 on Wednesday, according to Yahoo Finance data. shares continue to slide through the end of the week, hitting this year's low of around $170 at Friday's market close. The stock had previously peaked at about $450 per share in mid-July. Year to date, MSTR once outperformed much of the S&P 500, has now logged a 41% decline, and over the past year, it has fallen roughly 57%. Now, the argument here is that that does not make sense. MicroStrategy's treasury portfolio of Bitcoin throughout this time period was on a upward trajectory for the vast majority of it. We saw new all-time Bitcoin highs. MicroStrategy has been buying Bitcoin since Bitcoin was a couple $1,000s. They have made a lot of returns. And so the belief here is that essentially JPMorgan has been targeting MicroStrategies for a while, and that they have been continually shorting, trying to cause the collapse of MicroStrategies and to massively, massively profit from doing so. Bitcoin supporters, crypto community members argue that JPMorgan launched a deliberate, premeditated attack on MSTR shareholders with accusations from figures such as Cardone, Max Kaiser, and pro XRP lawyer John Deaton. At this time, Grant Cardone canceled my JPMorgan account, moved entire account to Wells. Also, don't use Chase credit card if you're worried about fraud. More to come. And so this is one of those things that I think is going to become a responsibility of active people in the crypto blockchain space. Ultimately, many people are not going to be paying attention to these things. And if no one is paying attention to it, nothing's going to be done to stop it. And so these are the type of things that we need to share. These are the type of things that you need to spread, not because they're interesting, not because they're fun, but because they're not. This is something that is not sexy. This is not sexy. This is not exciting. This is not going to get major mainstream approval unless it gets that same type of attention as GameStop in 2021. If it gets that type of attention, JPMorgan's going to be held responsible and things are going to change. If it doesn't get that kind of attention, JPMorgan's going to succeed. They're going to make one buttload of money, and they're going to drive the value of Bitcoin down. And undoubtedly, JPMorgan's going to be the one who comes in and buys it once it's extremely down and extremely reduced in value. And so, yes, these are things to pay attention to. They're not sexy. They're not fun, but these are the legitimate concerns that I think people need to be aware of. They're going to happen. And if we do nothing, they will continue to happen. If people really hold their feet to the fire, then this is going to be an opportunity with the transparency of the blockchain to start holding these people genuinely accountable. So, interesting one right here. We'll be keeping up with this story as it continues to progress and see what the reaction is from JPMorgan if the boycott starts to really starts to really get legs. All right, though, jumping on it over. Franklin Templeton XRP ETF wins New York Stock Exchange ARCA approval ahead of launches. And so we've got another XRP ETF rolling out, getting its approvals set to come launch in the very, very near future. The exciting thing about this one is really that it is Franklin Templeton. So Franklin Templeton is definitely one of the biggest players that is jumping into the XRP ETF space up to this point. And so a lot of the excitement around this ETF winning its approval is really on account of Franklin Templeton. Remember, as we have talked about, these ETFs only matter if money flows in and money stays. These ETFs, as an announcement itself, it's exciting, but it's not fundamentally market changing. It is when we see massive amounts of money go into these ETFs and stay in these ETFs. That's when we can start getting excited about it. That's why it was exciting a few weeks ago when Canary Capital's ETF had $58 million in day one volume. That was exciting because that broke the record for the year of 2025. That's the most volume on day one of any ETF of the entire year. That was exciting. It needs to stay that way. that is what's going to result in a shrinking of the supply of circulating XRP. When that supply of circulating XRP starts to diminish, that's when you're going to start seeing the price of XRP head upwards. There's too much supply, not enough demand. The ETFs are helping with that by eating up supply, but we need that to be consistent. We need them to eat more supply. Then we can start getting excited about $10 XRP. Surfer 44. Good morning, Zester. JPMorgan's notorious for shorting the markets. Look at gold and silver and what they've done with that. I think they're going to be exposed. And yes, they tie. Yeah, JPMorgan is one of the 13 bloodlines called them satanic families. JPMorgan escaped off Titanic, set up our current financial system. Jekyll Island, ring a bell. Surfer 44. JPMorgan has a long, long history of placing profits far, far above the well-being of the American people and really even the global community. And so, yes, I would not trust JPMorgan with anything. I hope that this brings more and more people over to the awoken state on some of these different companies and get some folks that weren't aware, weren't awake to wake up and start moving away from these types of companies, because ultimately JPMorgan is only powerful because we give them the money to be powerful with. If this rally, if this movement and this boycott actually takes off, it will reduce the power and influence of JPMorgan. So I hope people take it seriously, and I hope that they are held accountable. Tammy, I really think the only way they're going to be held accountable is if this story becomes as big as GameStop did. We need this story to become GameStop big, because an attack on MicroStrategy and something of this nature is very, 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 very dangerous as a precedent being set to allow a financial institution to go after and attack a company that in this case is participating so heavily in cryptocurrency. It's allowing JPMorgan to essentially wield some very, very, very disproportionate leverage and power, because they're now able to essentially attack a stock company, they're able to attack the stock market. And in attacking the stock market, they're able to even more so directly attack the cryptocurrency markets. This would be a very, very dangerous precedent if JPMorgan is allowed to continue on this path. If they create this as a baseline, we're going to start to see a lot of other shenanigans going on. A lot of other shenanigans. Tammy, BlackRock sold off record numbers in Bitcoin too. Absolutely. BlackRock and Grayscale sold off massive, massive amounts of Bitcoin during this recent market correction. I've seen numbers north of $900 million worth of Bitcoin were dropped specifically out of just BlackRock. And those type of things they're just far too well timed. Far too well timed. That avoids the idea of coincidence. It's not a coincidence that many people with that much money all decided that was the day. That just seems like far too much of a coincidence to be the whole truth. Far, far too much. But all right, this brings me to our last little deal of the day that I was going to cover. And I was just going to look at all the markets real quick, because something is going on here. Cryptocurrency market is absolutely dominated by fear at the moment. Overall index is heavily, heavily, heavily leaning towards the idea of massive, massive, massive fear influencing the market. Well, let's come over to the stock market. Extreme fear is also the driving factor of the stock market. We are seeing fear across all of the markets. It's not just crypto right now. It is the stock market, it's cryptocurrency markets, it's commodity markets, it's everything. And so the reason that I actually bring this up is not to say, well, everybody's focusing on crypto, leave us alone. No, I think that what everyone is missing is that a much, much larger economic shift is occurring right now. We are seeing a major constraints being placed on the monetary supply. And that is scaring the crap out of all of the different folks that have been inflating these asset values and the inflation of the stock market, the inflation that has been caused by the increase in monetary supply. And now we're seeing major constraints being placed on it. We're getting to that point of the economy and the markets are starting to realize we've got a major problem. And we don't really have any direction coming out right now on where the market's going. Ultimately, we know Trump said everybody's going to have a very Merry Christmas. And that we've got something coming towards the end of the year from an economic standpoint that's going to change things. Okay, we don't know what that is. And that means uncertainty. And overall, the markets are getting to a point where the rubber has to meet the road. Ultimately, the stock market is extremely overvalued. Many of these companies are not only not profitable, they're not even close to breaking even. Many of these tech companies run at yearly deficits. Our companies have become a lot like our countries. Our countries are all running massive deficits. Most nations around the world can't even pay their interest payments, and companies are operating the same way and have been operating that way since prior to 2008, and they were never stopped. I think that we are approaching that. We're approaching that point in which you can no longer kick the can. Or if we are going to kick the can, somebody needs to come up with a far better idea of just how to kick this thing. Because we're hitting that point. And what the Fed does now is going to massively alter which direction I think this goes in. I think there's a fear right now that the United States is going to turn off the money printers. And I think that's why there's so much fear right now in the crypto markets and in the stock market, is that they're afraid the money printer is going to stop. Whether that is true or false, we're going to find out together. But that's where a lot of the fear has come from, which is weird, all things considered. But it's not just crypto. It's everywhere. And it definitely makes you think about whether we're not progressing towards a financial system collapse. Because I really don't see what can get us out of it. Ultimately, job markets are going to continue to do very poorly. They're going to not improve. Job markets are not going to improve. We have out-invented the need for the vast majority of white-collar workers. Artificial intelligence and automation are going to take over and continue to take over more and more white-collar jobs every day, every week, every month, and every year for decades. It's not going to stop. It's just going to continue. And so the job market is not going to improve. It's not. At least not in that way. Not in the way that we have educated and taught our populace to plan out their life plans. Ultimately, electricians, plumbers, HVAC, the trades, they're going to have a massive boom, but they're not going to replace the amount of jobs that are going to be lost from desk work. And so we cannot count on job markets improving. It's very unlikely that the United States is going to see overly positive job markets anytime soon. What are they going to do? What job are we seeing? We're seeing companies reduce their workforce and replace with artificial intelligence. We're not seeing companies increasing their workforce because, well, most of these companies that we educated everyone to be able to work at don't need them anymore. And so we're not going to see an improvement there. In terms of the overall monetary supply, we've inflated it to such a degree that there's no way to fix it. We're out of fixing it. We can't, as a country, get a part-time job to start paying this debt down. There aren't enough hours in the day. There's not enough money on the planet. That ship has sailed. And so we're not going to solve the inflation issue. We're not going to solve the job market issue. And so what are we going to do? I mean, in terms of levers for central banks to pull on, they're out of levers. Ultimately, what are they going to do? And so I think that we are getting towards that point of it's going to be, it's too big. It's too big not to fail. To twist around the 2008, 2009 mantra from the financial institutions. It's too big not to fail. And so I'm not certain. I wonder what Trump's plan is in terms of this major Christmas announcement. I really think that when it comes down to it, that the United States government has fully, at this point, backed the idea and the plan of they are going to force the world to pay off our debt through stable coins and the revaluation of gold, of the Federal Reserve gold supplies. At this point in time, everything that the United States government is doing from an economic standpoint appears as if that is the plan. And every time we hear economists from other nations talk about it, they tell us that's the U.S. plan. And so I think at this point, the United States is saying what they're doing. The economists of the world are saying what the United States is doing. I think that we are fully back behind the plan of we are going to force the world to erase our debt through these stable coins and through the revaluation of gold. I don't know. That's all I can see. That's the only thing that continues to make sense at this point in time, entirely. Yep. Surfers, that Trump has been saying for the last several years, we're going to have a Merry, Merry Christmas. I believe this is the year. It's the second window kitty hammock installed yet. Nope, Surfer, it's not. I've still only got one kitty hammock, but I just need to go pick up the other kitty hammock. It is sitting in a P.O. box. And so hopefully the kitty cats will have their spare seating come tomorrow. To me, yes, absolutely. Yeah, and AI is going, Kukla. AI will be taking jobs. Absolutely. It's only going to ramp up. It's only going to ramp up. It's going to increase. It's going to get more brutal. And it's going to start expanding out from the sectors that people are expecting it to be in. The funny thing is that it's going to come for the managerial class in probably the hardest way, and in the most brutal way, because they will not have a replacement. There is not another job to essentially give the people from the managerial classes in terms of most corporate structures, because that's where it's going to erase it. It's going to erase the accountants. It's going to erase the managers. It's going to erase pretty much anybody that was in charge of keeping the books. Is going to go from having a 20-man team to having a one-man team. And that one guy's job is going to be to check the AI's work. That'll be it. You will be nothing more than a safeguard, a patsy to blame. You know, if you don't verify that the numbers are right and the numbers come out, they're not going to fire the AI. They're going to fire that one guy in the accounting department, and they're going to put one new human being in there. And that guy's job will become, once again, to be the patsy for if the AI gets it wrong. And that's going to be it. There's so many different sectors. Customer service. Y'all already see this one. Have y'all had some of the conversations yet with some of the different phone AIs? It sounds like you're talking to a person. It's not a person. It's an AI customer service agent. It's only going to increase. It is. And Mile High Trish, absolutely. I think this is what we need to see. I hope we see a resurgence in small business and entrepreneurs as well. Absolutely. This is that chance. And in my opinion, it's probably one of the best ways that we can work our way out of this problem. AI and all of these tools allow for small business and entrepreneurs to succeed and flourish. Because now you no longer need a big team. If you have a dream, you have a belief, you have something you want to accomplish, you can do it now. It's $20 a month to have ChatGPT. And say you're writing a book, you now have a full-time editor, you have a marketer, you have a publicist, you have everything in that AI. That AI is capable of helping you go from having never written a book to publishing, self-publishing your own book all on its own. If you ever had to believe you wanted to start a 3D printing business, well, guess what? The AI is capable of building the schematics that you can then 3D print inside of your stores. This technology is a huge boon to entrepreneurs and small businesses. It gives you, as Zach, the ability to have the same tools, the same firepower that a Fortune 500 company has access to. I have the ability to run complex analytical, deep dives into my company numbers, into overall product desire, whether there is a desire for a said product in a specific community. I can run through and figure out how am I going to market this product. I have access to just as powerful a tools as Fortune 500 corporations, and I have it as being nothing more than Zester. And so I hope so, Trish. I really, really hope so, because there is a huge opportunity right now. It has never, ever, ever in my mind been easier to start your own business than it is now, because you can do it alone. You don't need a graphic designer. You don't need a copywriter. You don't need a tech guy. You really don't. And so it's never been this simple. I hope that we see a lot more innovation in that degree and in that way, because there's no excuse anymore on it. It is very, very doable. If you want to learn something, and you want to learn a new tool, a new skill set, go to ChatGPT and say, hey, I would like you to teach me string theory. You will understand quantum physics string theory. It will teach it to you. It can do it. And so I hope that people learn it is a tool that can very much be for the betterment of humanity, or it can be a tool for the oppression of humanity. Oh, NM Hiker, do you think that maybe this has been a lesson for people to live within our means and bring families together, grow our own food, less dependence on government, and we the people grow our world organically? NM Hiker, I know for me that when all of this is said and done, that is, in my opinion, going to be one of the most important sectors of humanitarian good to be focused on. I strongly, strongly think that we need to diversify food sources. We need to get people and communities growing their own food again. And so in my mind, the community aspect of this NM Hiker is one of the most important things to invest in after all is said and done, because that is what's going to stop it from happening again. If every American just grew 20% of their food, you would essentially erase most of the different companies that have been out there selling poison and feeding poison to the American people. It really doesn't take a lot. It really would not take. Everyone out there does not need to become their own farmer and only eat lettuce and tree bark. In all honesty, even a small shift in terms of food supplies back to a community level, I think would make a huge change in how the world works. All right, though, guys. I think that one is going to cover it for me on this Monday. I will be back on Wednesday. And so on Wednesday, I'll go ahead and let everyone know what we're going to be doing. We're going to have a Gemini exchange tutorial. And so we're going to be going through the Gemini cryptocurrency exchange and doing a tutorial on Gemini in particular, how to use it, how to withdraw crypto from it, how to send crypto to it, things of that nature. And so on Wednesday, it is Gemini tutorial time. I think that one will be very helpful for everyone out there, because most of these exchanges work the same. And so you can learn a little bit about how Coinbase works by learning about how Gemini works, et cetera, et cetera. And so that is the current plan on what we will be covering on Wednesday. And so thank you guys all so much for joining me today Love you all. Hope everyone has an amazing, amazing start to the week. And I will see you again, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday for our Gemini tutorial. Love you guys. Peace.